Just like any other genre, manga can be a little bit daunting for any newcomers, so rather than just taking our advice, we thought we'd invite along good friend Ryan from the Geek of Oz to have a bit of a chat about his favourite manga titles and how to get involved into this wonderful world. Ryan, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
So, for a newcomer, what would be your advice into getting involved into manga?
Well, my advice really is just to get in there. I mean, there's so much to choose from.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really not that daunting. You can pretty much go into any bookstore, any comic book store nowadays and pick up a title.
So, what would be a couple of titles that you would personally recommend?
Well, I'd personally recommend Bakuman, first of all. It's a great title because it actually follows the journey of two guys that are trying to break into the manga industry.
Cool.
So what it does is it kind of gives you a look behind the curtains at how the Japanese manga industry works, specifically Shonen Jump magazine. So it kind of, you know, it demystifies the whole industry.
Yep.
And from a Westerner's point of view, I think it's really handy.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to have a look
Yeah.
at what actually goes on behind the scenes, because we know what happens in comic books, so this is kind of a little introduction to the world again.
It is, and it's different to comic books too. It's handled completely differently, so that's one that I'd definitely jump on board with. Fairy Tail would be another one that I'd recommend. It's kind of different to the usual Shonen Jump stuff. In fact, it's not from Shonen Jump magazine. So what you'll get is the same sort of thing, a lot of action, a lot of comedy as well, but it's not One Piece. It's got a fantasy element to it.
Okay, and similar to One Piece, so not so much with the pirates or anything like that, or?
No, you get wizards, you get dragons, you get a whole lot of fights as well, just
That's
like
awesome.
in One Piece.
Yep.
But in my opinion, I actually prefer the story in Fairy Tail.
It's a big call.
It is a big call because
Yeah.
One Piece is the biggest selling manga series of all time,
Yeah.
Sure.
ever.
How many volumes are I up to at this point?
I think we're up to 67 at the moment.
That's crazy,
So-
because I think pretty much everyone would know of One Piece, whether
Yeah.
through the manga or through the animation. So
Yeah,
Fairy
definitely.
Tail, you think, is right up there with it?
In my personal opinion, yes. I actually think that the art is a touch better as well. So that's just in my opinion. Now the last one that I'd pick up would be Yotsuba. Now this is one that not too many people have heard about, but it's a fantastic title. It's all about a 5-year-old girl and just her observations on everyday life.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because we've been talking about some kind of chunky material,
Yep.
you know, with fighting wizards and about the manga industry, which can be, you know, a little bit stale. So this is a kind of an uplifting story. I really enjoy it. And it only comes out once a year as well.
Oh wow, and it is nice because I often find when we kind of go through the titles, it can be a little dark, it can be kind of, there's a lot of supernatural, there's a lot of horror, there is a lot of action, so it is nice that there is that lighter side to the industry as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I like about it, is that you can sort of tune out, you don't have to worry about anyone dying in the end. It's just all about observations of how amazing life can be.
All right, and so that's 3 titles. Now we're going to plumb your depth of
Yes.
knowledge a bit more. Any other titles you'd want to throw out there in that grouping?
Well, the first one that I'd go for would be Attack on Titan.
Of course.
It's kind of the Walking Dead of the manga industry at the moment. It's everywhere and
Yeah.
everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's really exploded with the release of the anime. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, it has. And I think the best thing about the anime, you can watch it for free online through Madman.
Yep.
So if you're not sure you want to pick up the manga title, just watch a couple of episodes and you can make your mind up there.
Is that pretty similar with a lot of titles? Are most manga titles now turned into anime, or are there ones that are only in print?
There are some that are only in print. There are a lot that are only in print. But generally the ones that we get over here that are translated into English are the more popular Japanese titles.
Okay.
Sure.
So if they're popular in Japan, a lot of the time they will get animated. Plus, I'd also recommend Bunny Drop. It's
The name alone has already got me
awesome,
interested.
yeah.
yeah. It's I mean, it's a really great series, and it's kind of a slice of life series about a man that adopts a young girl after the death of his grandfather. So it's a little bit heavy in terms of the tone of the series, but it's also really uplifting. So that's another one that I'd recommend.
Okay, now there seems to be, in the Western culture, there's maybe what is probably a misconception that most manga has in some way to do with giant robots punching other giant robots, or at least giant lizards
Yeah.
or something. So I'm getting the feeling from the ones you're saying that is quite a misconception.
Yeah, we tend to have a misconception that all manga is basically Pacific Rim, which isn't the case at
Not
all.
at all,
Yeah.
no.
But that's just like saying that all American comic books are Superman.
That's true.
So, and we know that that's not the case. You can honestly get absolutely anything. You can get cooking manga, you can get manga that's about, high school girls' bands, you can get anything at all. Just choose your poison.
Just go in there and get started, basically.
Get started and go hard.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming along and having a bit of a chat about this wonderful genre. I hope that's given you some titles to kind of whet your appetite. Get out there and get yourself into some manga.